What up, guys? Welcome to Base Damage. Hope everybody's having a great day today. We are bringing to you a kind of deck profile, but it's actually, I guess, more of a deck progression video. Because this is basically the version of this deck that I was testing out yesterday at our locals. So I kind of wanted to go ahead and record this while it was so fresh in my mind, as well as kind of go over my ideas and opinions as far as like how this deck is running so far. It is mono yellow, re-zero, basically mostly based around Felt and Reinhard, but there is like Krush and Julius and whatnot, so there's a couple other characters in there, but primarily focusing on Felt and whatnot. So pretty cool there, and let's just get right into it. Sorry, excuse me there. I feel like I just ran a fucking mile, but I didn't. It's like, what on earth? Anyway, so getting right into this, there's a couple one-ofs in the deck. There's a couple changes I definitely want to make, and I'll get to those as I go along. But for the most part, I'm going to try to keep a lot of these effects quick and simple. So, starting off with the zeros, we got 4 copies of the 00 2500 Felt that is a mill runner. So, beginning of your opponent's attack phase, mill the top card of your deck. If it is a magic or weapon, which the entire deck is that. There's nothing really outside of that. There is... Well, let me finish the effect first. If it's a magic or weapon character, you can move her to an open position of your center stage. And for the most part, every effect in this deck is going to proc with the whole magic or weapon trait, unless you reveal or show a climax. That's pretty much it, except for this next level 0 is the only exception that I can immediately think of off the top of my head. But this is a 00500, what is her name again? I apologize. Teresa. Sorry, I couldn't remember it at all. I just was like, oh, it's the milling memory chick. Kind of flavorful for this effect as well. But basically, she combos with this Wilhelm for her first effect. Basically, this particular named Wilhelm, while she is on the field, gets 500 power and +1 level. Making him pretty beefy and immune to stock bombs at level 0, which is... or any reversers in general, which is pretty fucking cool. The other thing is that when you level, you can pay 1 stock, send her to memory, look at the top 4 cards of your deck, grab a weapon character amongst them, which there's a lot of weapon. Any Felt is weapon, so you're good in that regard. You can grab a weapon character amongst them, add it to your hand, the rest go to your waiting room, and proceed. Pretty fucking cool, and I ran into one thing earlier this weekend I thought was pretty funny with some test playing. Dude did not RTFC the memory effect. As far as this thing just straight up leaves the fucking field. Swung at her last, so the second attack the dude did leveled me, and I used her effect to send her to memory. And the card I had thrown her up center stage just to build up some stock, and I'm like, well, cool, if I level, she's gone, whatever. But basically was going to swing at her last with a plussing effect for a climax combo, and ended up not being able to do that because all of a sudden she's gone. So it's pretty cool. Then we got 4 copies of this Wilhelm. He's also a runner like the Felt, but not a mill runner. I'll get to that in a sec. He's a 002K. If he's the only character in center stage, he gets 15 power, or 1500, so he makes him a 35. With her effect, he becomes a 4K level 1 with the effect that at the beginning of the opponent's attack phase, he can move in front of another character. So he's a runner, but he, instead of running away, he's like, come at me, bro, and runs right in front of people. Pretty freaking cool, and having 8 runners in the deck was kind of weird, but still very much enjoyable as far as like openings. But yeah, then we have 3 copies of this Krush, which is actually really fucking good utility. Her first effect is, during your turn, the character in the middle position of your center stage gets 1,000. Really good. Pay 2, tap her, search your deck for a weapon or magic added to your hand. Also really good. And then a spammable brainstorming effect. Pay 1 stock, that's it. And mill 4, for every climax, you can add a weapon or magic character from your deck to your hand, and then discard 1 card. So you filter, but you can use this as many times as you need. Really good. And that's it for the zeros. I'm enjoying this setup, but I may try to tweak some stuff around, just see what other utility is out there type thing. So then we get to the ones. And level 1 has a couple one-ofs, but I'll explain those when I get to it. So first off, we have 4 copies of this new felt from the second set, who is basically the plussing engine of the deck. This is really cool. So 105k, that when the battle opponent becomes reversed, if you got Mistral Maiden in play, which is a yellow stock soul, so not as much power, but still good effect in the plussing engine. So when the battle opponent becomes reversed, if you got Mistral Maiden, look at the top 4, grab a weapon or magic amongst those, add it to your hand. The rest go to your waiting room, and then choose another one of your characters, and that character gets 2,000 power until end of turn. So if you got multiples of these, you can end up making the other copies get bigger after the initial one, but it's just getting that first one to go off is the thing. And by that standard, she doesn't get but so big. She doesn't have any other buffs. There's a Sugumi from Bang Dream that has pretty much the exact same climax combo effect, but she gets way bigger to start with, so there's a difference there. So still really good and definitely very fun. 2 copies of this Crush. I was running this climax combo before, but I gave up on it, so we're not going to worry about that climax combo here. It is not run. She ends up being a really big body, though. Her first effect gives her 4k if all of your characters are weapon or magic, so they always are. So she's constantly a 106k. She also has a neat little second effect where when she attacks, if you got 3 or more weapon or magic characters, you get to look at the top 2 cards of your deck, put one of them back on top of the deck, so you get to choose which you're going to trigger, and then the other goes to the waiting room. So you can always, basically on her attacks, you can make certain that you're not going to trigger climaxes unless you want to, but you usually don't want to trigger them, especially not for this deck. Having a double soul and a shock trigger, so let's send those to the waiting room. Anyway, 4 copies of this Julius. He's a 1045. His first effect states during your turn, as long as you only got weapon and magic characters, he gets 2k power, so it becomes a 6/5. His second effect is a constant as long as you have 3 or more other weapon or magic characters, or merchant. Merchants for both of the effects, but that effect is not really prevalent in this deck, so I just kind of ignore it. But if you do got 3 or more of them, he gets 500 power and character encore, making him, during your turn, a 7k. Defensively is a 5k with character encore. Still pretty good. 2 copies of this backup Reinhard. It ends up being a free 2k backup. Really good. And these are some one-ups. I got 1 copy of this felt that ends up buffing all of your yellow characters during your turn by 1,000. So it gives her a little bit of extra buff. I think I'm going to try to bump her up. Then also has the effect of all of your other yellow characters get a reduced encore. So instead of having to pay 3 stock, you only have to pay 2. And that actually came in clutch a lot when I was using this. So I'm actually going to bump this up to 2 at some point. I just got to figure out what ratios I want to change. And then 1 copy of this 1/1 Crush. She's a 115k. And let me make certain I got the condition correct. If the number of magic or weapons you have is 3 or more, she gets 2k, so it can become a 7. Good sized body. The other thing is, if you pay a particular cost, which is discarding 2 cards from your hand, you can attack a character in your opponent's back row. That never really came up because my opponent didn't have anything that was like too broken or anything back row, like any like crazy brainstormers or other crazy buffing effects that I needed to get rid of. But it is an option, and I kind of like that. So it's pretty cool. But I'm going to be working with ratios. I would like to have a better plussing engine overall, but this is still really good, don't get me wrong. I prefer this over the Crush, but I definitely could tell that there were times where it just didn't feel as super consistent. That may have just been my luck then. Getting into the level 2s. We got another climax combo with Mistral Maiden coming up here. We got 2 copies of this 2/1 8k felt. When you play her, if you have 5 or less cards in the deck, you can pitch a copy of Mistral Maiden to refresh. You take your entire waiting room and your deck, combine it, shuffle again, you're good. You don't take a refresh penalty at all, which is amazing. So that itself is really good. Hashtag shout outs to all the Nizakoi players out there with Angel and White Kasaki. But you you get extra stuff from that as well for doing this climax combo. When you refresh, You also get to add a Felt or Reinhard from deck to hand, or Rom, but I don't run Rom. And then you get to summon this particular level 3 Felt from the deck where she was. So you get to search for any particular card and she replaces herself. So really good in that regard. And free fresh on top of that. You really can't go wrong. So then she comes out and you can do some shenanigans, but we'll get to her in a little bit. She doesn't have any climax combos, but like I said, we'll get to her in a bit. 2 copies of her. I was doing 3 and it felt like too much. I may bump it back up to 3. I'm not particularly certain right now. We got some more one-ofs. We got this 2/1 Felt that if she attacks at level 3, she gets 6k power. So she goes from 75 to a 13/5. I actually really like this because it doesn't really have any early plays in this deck. So if the opponent does have an early play, she just punishes them like crazy. You got this 2/1 2500 backup Priscilla, who is also a rest counter. I want to make certain I read this correctly. When you use this card's backup, you can pay 4, pitch a magic or weapon character from your hand, and choose one of your opponent's characters and rest it. It's a really hefty cost, but it's on a character that could be searchable because she has weapon and magic as the traits. So searchable rest counters kind of funky to me. I would actually be very interested in seeing a deck like more based around like searching this card, doing that and whatnot. So it actually seems pretty fun. I may actually end up bumping this up to 2. The rest counter never really came up. There was a moment where I could have played it in as far as in the entire tournament, but it would have used up all of my stock because I had exactly 5 stocks, so it would have cost the 1 to play and then the 4 for the rest at counter. I didn't want to because I had other level 3s in hand. I wanted to be able to play if I survived, but I ended up dying. So I was like, whatever. The dude took me from like 2 to dead. So I was like, well, if I survive, we're good. And never mind. Okay, we're dead. Fuck me running. So, and then 1 copy of this Reinhard is a 2/1 assist. It's a level assister. And then when you, it's a particular Felt. Yep. When you play this level 3 Felt, you can blind stock. So, interesting little thing. Never came up, but because it never came up, I'll probably end up cutting this. But either way, I'll probably end up getting another copy of the Priscilla in the deck. But we'll see how it goes. It actually was still really fun. And I know I said you can't early play, but I realized the very first fucking combo is technically an early play. But it's a much harder early play if you don't meet the 5 or less cards in deck requirement. So I don't count it as an early play. It's just an interesting little climax combo that can occur. That's just my personal opinion. So anyway, getting into the level 3s. 3 copies of the level 3 Felt we mentioned twice now. She's got a good couple of effects. If the number of magic characters you have is 3 or more, she gets 2k, so she becomes a 10/5. When she attacks, search your deck for a magic or weapon character and put it into your stock. So that's pretty freaking cool. Also on attack, her second effect fuels this other effect, which is amazing. On attack, you can pay 2 stock. And if you do, choose one of your characters and it gets cancel burn for the turn. So when your damage gets canceled, attempt to burn your opponent for 1, which is great. 3 copies of that. I was running 3 copies of this and I would decide to bump it down to 2. This is probably going to go back up to 3 at some point. Don't know what's going to get changed, but definitely going back up to 3. This level 3 Felt 3/2 10k heals on play. Always good. You got to have some kind of healer in the deck. And then I looked in the wrong pile. Climax combo with the 1k1 shot trigger. This is really fun. At the beginning of your encore step, you can sack 3 yellow characters, and basically, her being. You can send her as one of them and it still goes off, to my understanding. Sacrifice 3 yellow characters to summon this particular Reinhard, the bane of everybody's existence, apparently. This particular Reinhard, from the waiting room to the stage position, to any stage position, which doesn't matter because he's a fucking runner, which is great. And then you get to attempt to burn your opponent for 1. So interesting little climax combo there, just to try to get out the Reinhard instead of having a hard cast for 3 stock or whatever. But honestly, it doesn't matter because this dude's fairly dumb. This dude's fairly broken. We got 3 copies of Reinhard, and Anybody watching this, I'm certain knows about this meme. This dude is utter insanity, and I'm not kidding. But he's also kind of a one and done thing. He is a level 3 cost 10k 2 soul character. He is a brick wall of text, so this is probably where the majority of the rest of this video is going to go to, but just let's go with this. First ability is called Great Performance. It basically reads, if he's in the middle center of your middle position of your center stage, as long as he's not reversed, every single one of your opponent's characters in their center stage has to frontal him. It forces your opponent to frontal him, specifically him. No matter what other characters you have or empty lanes you have, it all becomes a frontal attack on him. So that is fucking dumb. Experience. If the total level of the cards in your level is 6 or higher, easy to do, but I kind of more often than not ended up putting like one copy of each of these in the level, and it worked out, but still. And you don't have any other characters, which is why she sacks characters. You basically purposely only go with your level 3 game, purposely only have 3 characters on the field when you do this combo so that you can just pop out this Reinhard. This card gets 10,000 power, making him a 20,000 power character. And the following 5 abilities. He can't be chosen by your opponent's card effects or reversed by your opponent's auto effects, which is dumb. So they can't target him with shit. There's cards that get around this as far as like effects with removal that don't target, but they're far and few between. Shoutouts to Konosuba. Next, I'm sorry, I'm just like slamming the table. Next is, during this card's battle, your opponent can't play events or backup from hand. When the battle opponent of this becomes reversed, you can send that character to memory. When the battle opponent becomes reversed, you can discard a card to deal 1 damage to your opponent. And at the beginning of your opponent's attack phase, you can move this card to an open position of your center stage. That's where the runner effect comes into play. So if you do this effect, sack off everything, he's the only character. You can purposely move him to the middle center where he is a 20k hex-proof character that your opponent has to frontal. And when they frontal and get reversed, because he's a fucking 20k beat stick, your opponent's shit's going to get reversed. You can burn them. You can send the characters to memory if you need to. And he just literally just wipes your opponent's field. He just, if you've watched the anime where he does the fucking sword slash thing, it just obliterates everything. So he's a meme, sure, but you just need that to go off like one fucking time and then just push for damage. So really fucking fun, and definitely had a fun time dropping him on a couple people. Yeah. With that, we are at the climaxes. 4 copies of I'll Do Your Royal Election, 1k1 Shot Trigger, and 4 copies of Mistral Maiden, Yellow Stock Soul. That's be the deck. The deck definitely needs tweaking. To give some final thoughts before we end it here. It needs tweaking. I feel that I could change up the utility and try to work up a couple better effects as far as like trying to get like a plussing engine to go off. The felt wasn't difficult to go off, but I'm also used to decks at this point that have like pants triggers that let you get back climaxes or gold bars that purposely make climaxes go to your hand and whatnot. And I don't stack, so I can see that it has the normal consistency issues any deck is going to have that doesn't have every other card being, I search this, going out. So still very fun, and I very much enjoy this deck. Without the shadow of a doubt, I very much enjoy this deck, and I'm going to end up messing a little bit with ratios. I may end up making it not be a mono yellow anymore and actually put in like another color, like blue or something. But even if I don't, this has been super fun to play. I can't tell you how fun it was to finally drop Reinhard on somebody. On top of just in general doing various effects that make my opponent go, what the fuck's going on? So really fun and very budget. The level 3 Reinhard's very fucking cheap. But this felt's probably the most expensive card in the entire damn deck, and I think it's like $5 or $6. That's it. everything else in here, even the runners are only down to like $2 or $3 a piece. So it's very budget. The level 1s are cheap as hell. The level 3 felt that pulls out the Reinhard is very cheap. Like I said, there's nothing really expensive in the deck. So definitely check it out if you're interested. But this is, like I said, this is a progression video. I'm going to do tweaks to this. You're going to see this deck again, most definitely in a video. But with that, we will be signing off for now. Subscribe if you want. If not, hey, thanks for checking out the video and me ranting about card games. With that, we will see y'all on the flip side. Peace out for now.